What's up, YouTubers and Cinephiles? John Ricky here. I got a question for you. I was having a conversation a while back, and I always thought, Back to the Future is one of my favorite movies, first and foremost, okay? Probably top 5 of all time. And it's definitely one of those I never want to see rebooted or reconned or whatnot. But in the second movie, they talk about alternate timelines and so on and so forth, right? And it got me thinking, what if we lived in a world where Back to the Future doesn't exist and the idea is just being formulated recently? I mean, really think about that. What if they never made it in 1985 and they made it today, where it's like instead of being in 1985, going back to 1955, you have it in present day, or could have came out a few years ago in 2015 and they go back to 1985. I think that would have been cool. Or rather, since it's 2018, they go back to 1988. I mean, how would that look in today's standard, in today's Hollywood? Like, how would the cast look? That's what I'm going to give you a list of today. Yes, of course, it's iconic. You can't replace Christopher Lloyd. You can't replace Michael J. Fox. You can't replace Leah Thompson, so on and so forth. The guy who plays Biff, he is iconically that character. But, again, this is hypothetical, and let's have some fun with it. Plus, it's very difficult to see who this day and age would be up to those standards. So with that note, I'm going to give you my possible cast if it was created today. Here we go. Now my list is for the major characters in the movie series, and for each and every one of them, about 3 to 4 actors that I think would be great. So first up is the crux of the whole series, obviously, because he created the DeLorean, and that's Doc Brown, played expertly by Christopher Lloyd. Here we go. Andy Serkis. Now, you may know him, you may not really recognize him, because mostly you've seen him behind CG masks. He's most famous for playing Gollum. He played King Kong in the Peter Jackson version, and most recently he played amazingly Caesar in the Rise of the Planet of the Apes trilogy, as well as play Ulysses Claw in Black Panther. Dude is an amazing, incredible actor, and I can see him playing a kooky, quirky doctor. I think he would really bring something different to it. Next choice, the criminally underrated John Goodman, man. Ever since Roseanne, playing Dan on Roseanne, he has not had a bad performance. He's always likable, gullible, fearsome. Especially in 10 Cloverfield Lane. Dude just is impressive in every turn. I think he would be great as a Doc Brown, really. Next up, Steve Carell, man. Ever since he played the 40-Year-Old Virgin and Michael Scott on The Office, he has had a great resume of films, dramatic and comedic alike. And I think he would be great as Doc Brown. I just think he would be incredible. And last, but certainly not least, really my number one choice for Doc Brown if they were to do it today, Bryan Cranston, man. Breaking Bad, he was just incredible on that, and as Malcolm's dad on Malcolm in the Middle, beautiful performances. Can you imagine him just saying Great Scott or whatever they do? I think it would be something to behold with him as Doc Brown. Next up is the centerpiece of the movie, and that is Marty McFly, played excellently by Michael J. Fox. So here's how I think it would go today. First up, Nick Robinson. He's recently the lead in that movie Love, Simon, and he's really good in it, from what I've seen. Next up, Asa Butterfield. Yeah, he was in that Ender's Game a few years ago, and I think he'd really be a unique take on Marty, depending on, he's had a few star roles, and he's handled them pretty well. And I could see him being the kind of an awkward type of kid, an everyman type of teen. Next up, Shameik Moore. Yeah, the main dude from Dope, man. He really carried that movie well. And I loved him in that Netflix series, The Get Down. Like, he was really popped off that show. You know, he got gravitas for days. A great energy to Marty. And number one would be Tom Holland. In the shortest amount of time, he has shown that he has the gravitas. He can definitely handle and really play a good high school student, because he plays Peter Parker expertly. I mean, it's amazing what he's done. Next up is Lorraine, Marty's mother. And for her, Jane Levy from Suburgatory, short-lived TV show a few years ago, and recently she had great success with Don't Breathe, being the main actress. I think she would really bring that kind of like naivety, but she can also bring out that like wild side that she showed in the movie. Next up, Kiersey Clemons, also from Dope, and she also played the very naive friend in Neighbors 2. And she really is. She's been in quite a number of different roles, each one varying from the next, and I think she'd be great as Lorraine. And there's Teresa Palmer, who is criminally underrated actress. She's very good in most of the roles that I've seen her in. I mean, she's great in that Warm Bodies movie. That was really good. And on top of that, she was the best part of that dismal Point Break movie, and I Am Number 4. And then there's the top pick, and that is Elizabeth Olsen. She's great as Scarlet Witch. I mean, she's really a talented actress, and I can really see her playing Lorraine to a T. Yeah, next up is the awkward father, George McFly. And for him, to start things off, is Dan Bird. Dan Bird has basically made a career out of playing awkward teens, or really just awkward characters in general. I mean, especially with roles in Cougar Town as Courtney Cox's son, Easy A. You look this guy up, he's basically, that's his bread and butter. Next up, John Boyega. Man, this guy is really steadily becoming one of my favorite actors right now. I mean, I can really just see him playing almost any role, to be honest. And I think he throws himself into it, either being a playboy like he is in Pacific Rim, or playing a stormtrooper in Star Wars, former stormtrooper, or just being the badass delinquent in Attack the Block. I mean, dude's really talented. Next up is Ezra Miller. I mean, dude is an amazing young talent. He played varying degrees of different types of characters. He played the man about town in Perks of Being a Wallflower. I mean, and he played super awkward in Justice League, and what was one of the highlights of that movie. And top pick goes to Jesse Plemons. I mean, this guy is a chameleon. I mean, he played a very disturbed person in Breaking Bad. I mean, and he's played disturbed people in a whole bunch of other stuff, Black Mirror, so on and so forth, but he's also played very awkward characters at the same time, like he just recently did in Game Night, which he was insufferably funny. Every time he come on the screen, it was hilarious. Couldn't help but laugh. Next up is the bully Biff. This was a hard one for me because I really couldn't think of many. But first up would be Ansel Elgort. Now, he's usually playing like the charmer, so on and so forth. I'd like to see him play against type and be just a jag off the whole daggone time. I think it would be really different. Next up is Blake Jenner. I've seen him a few times, seen him play the jock quite a few times, so maybe it's like a little bit of typecasting, but I think he'd bring something to that. And my top pick is Will Poulter. I mean, this guy, if you've seen Detroit, you'll understand why. He is mean in that movie and really he has no conscience. but he's also a lovable guy. Can play comedy very well, like he did in We Are the Millers. He was one of the best parts of that movie, and I think he'd really bring out the best of the Biff part. And last role is the role of Marty's girlfriend, Jennifer. To be honest, Jennifer's role is not really that important. She's really there at the bookends, the beginning and the end, and be played by anybody. So, on that note, Bella Thorne, she's usually playing like the pretty it girl or whatnot, and that's really what she kind of represents for Jennifer. And then there's Chloe Bennett. Love her on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I think she'd be solid in this role. Anyway, that's my list for an alternative Back to the Future if it was set in present day rather than 1985. Hey, tell me what you think about it. Do you have any suggestions? And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share amongst your friends. YouTubers and City Files. Talk to you later.